Hey, welcome to Washington, D.C. and my bar, The Tailspin, where we specialize in local craft brews. Can I get you a drink?
Yeah, I love craft brews, but there's so many choices here. What's good?
Well, we have the Presidential Oompa Loompa Ale, the Hyper-Partisan Pilsner, and a far-left lager, which comes with a special rule.
So if I get the far left lager, does that mean I have to share it with everyone in the bar?
This isn't your first time here, is it?
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show, No Vacancy, with Glenn Hausman. Of course, hey, that's me. I am the Glenn in the title. What a coincidence is that? I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. And thank you for all the great support that you're having. I got to tell you guys, I am absolutely amazed by how well the show is starting to do. You know, when I first started in June, I was ready for some instant gratification, but then everybody said, hey, dude, just take a break, relax, and we'll get it going as soon as possible. And now, look, man, it's going. Things are happening, and more people are listening and participating, and I am having such a great time. And while you're at it, be sure to remember I'm also editor-at-large at hotelmanagement.net. Check me out there, or follow me at Traveling Glenn on Twitter, and find me on Facebook and all that kind of good stuff. And listen, I hate to ask you week after week, but you're not living up to your responsibilities, like the show on iTunes. Now, listen, you're not paying for this. You're not paying a penny for this. Just go to iTunes right now. Stop what you're doing. Go to iTunes. Give me 5 stars, and we'll make it happen. Okay, so one of the things that I love about the first half of this show is I get to speak to a rotating group of fun and interesting people. And I'm sitting around saying to myself, what's one person that I'm missing? I'm missing a travel consultant. And that's why I got with myself Rebecca Alicia. She's with Smart Flyer, and makes me wonder why I haven't been using a travel consultant all this time. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glenn. I'm so happy to be here.
I am absolutely thrilled to have you too. You know, one of the things is I've got all these industry insiders from my little niche of the industry, but I'm not getting enough of that consumer focusing stuff. So I'm really glad that you could be here and you could be on board today.
I'm absolutely thrilled as well. And I agree. It's about time you gave the consumers their say.
Yes, it is. So, Rebecca, tell me a little bit about what Smart Flyer is and how long you've been doing it.
I've been with Smart Flyer around 3 years. They're a new breed of travel agency focused on customized planning. We do both business and leisure. My particular niche is leisure planning and family travel, which I guess we'll be talking about in a little while. Yep. But the beauty of Smart Flyer is our industry contacts and clout, which is something I think you're familiar with. It's always better on both sides if there's a connection, because we can really give our clients the best experience by reaching out to hotels, resorts, cruise lines, and making sure that they're prepared for our clients, making sure that our clients have the most seamless experience possible.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Rebecca, it's one of those things that I didn't really think about it when all the travel agents started to go away when the internet came around. And I was under the impression that, hey, travel agents and travel consultants are going to be a thing of the past. But boy, do I have egg on my face. And not just because I'm a sloppy eater, but because I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to even think that. What you guys do now is really about actionable insight and great tips and tricks and all of this stuff. And you really know how to put together a trip in ways that me, as the not typical travel consumer, was able to do easily.
That's absolutely true. And listen, in this day and age, everyone's time, to say time is money is an understatement. So with everything going on, for people to spend their precious time online searching through a variety of different review sites, some of which, let's face it, pay people for reviews, have their friends and family putting on reviews, they can instead come to an agent, a Smart Flyer agent preferably, right. And we can tell you what's worked for our clients, what hasn't. We can tell you what's up and coming, what's a destination you haven't thought of that might be great for you, what are experiences you can do when you get there, give you personalized service, assemble your itinerary to be customized to you, your family, and what they need, and package that all together with our relationships with hotel and travel industry to make sure that it is absolutely the best vacation you've ever had.
Woo, that was awfully seamless. Pretty impressed. Now, Rebecca, I had a problem recently. I had a travel experience that did not go so well. I was off to I had this great opportunity with the NEWH. They're a hotel industry event that was a hotel industry organization, I said, that was created to help women in hospitality achieve positions of prominence. Now, they were formed back when, there was a little bit more division between the sexes, which I feel like has gone away a lot. Not all the way, but has gone away a lot. So I went to go do my part and participate by doing their opening panel for them, and also to shoot a lot of videos. And I highly recommend you go to newh.org, and you could sign up now and catch all of those sessions from their leadership conference last week, as well as all of the one-on-one interviews that I did. So, Rebecca, that event started on Thursday, or I had to leave on Thursday, and we here in New York had a massive, massive snowstorm coming on. So I tried to be bright, and I tried to get out of town, but I couldn't get out a day earlier to Colorado, so I decided to go down to Atlanta first and then continue my trip the next day. And, we typically have a flight delay with one or two things that happen. Rebecca, how often do your flights get delayed?
Listen, it happens. It's sometimes what we see more commonly is people have a delay on the first end and sometimes miss their connection, and it's can be a real hassle. Did you have to call your airline and you were on hold waiting to get rerouted?
Yep. No, I was okay because I've got status with my airline, so I'm very fortunate that I called. They helped me. The first person I called was just like, sorry, that flight to Colorado is full, goodbye, right? So I know enough to pick up and call back. And the person that I spoke to, she was a lovely woman who understood my plight and helped me change my flight with no problem. Now, that being said, I get to the airport. I've got an 8 p.m. flight, and unfortunately, we got a little delay. Apparently, the flight was late from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and because it was from Brazil, customs and security, TSA, all of those guys had to get on and sweep it. Then we finally get on the plane. Really oversold flight because it's going to be the last flight outside of the region, and all of a sudden, a cop comes on board, and Rebecca, that's never a good thing when a cop comes on board a flight, right?
Absolutely.
So what happens is the cop, he comes over and he starts having a heated conversation with somebody in first class, which I'm hoping he's actually going to get pulled off because I was first loser on the first class upgrade thing. So I'm chomping at the bit, hoping that maybe this guy's going to be dragged off in handcuffs so I could get myself a free sandwich, because that's really what travel is all about for me, is the free goodies. Nope. The pilot came out. They discussed it. They worked it out. He didn't get taken away, but that created a delay. Then something really different happened that I'm not used to. The flight attendant gets on board and she says, hey, when I call your name, grab all of your things. You have to leave the flight. They called like 8 people's names, and they all had to leave the flight. Most of them, to be fair, were Delta employees, so it's not like there was some massive terrorist thing going on right now. So they did that because then they were trying to accommodate some other passengers to get them out of town before the snowstorm started, right? Then, just when you thought everything was okay and they told us we were going to leave, they said the plane was now too heavy and they had to deal with the weight issue. So that took some time. Then they said, sorry, we were wrong. The plane weighed just the right amount. We have no problem there. We redid our calculations. Then they decided to pull off more passengers. Then they decided to add some more passengers. Then they decided to remove some more passengers. Then they decided that the weight on the plane was unbalanced and we had to wait some more for them to fix that. And then we had to wait for some more passengers to get on board because a flight came in late from Rome and they wanted to get them out of town. So that took over 3 hours, which was fun. Usually you get 1 or 2 of those things, not every single one of them. So I landed at 1:30 in the morning, called my hotel. Of course, the hotel shuttle stopped running at 1 p.m. and I was out of luck. And then, Rebecca, they told me I was walked. Something that has never happened to me in 20 years in this business. I had no hotel room to go to, but nicely enough, they did actually put me somewhere else. I was able to quickly catch the shuttle, show up to the hotel, which promptly had no clue that I was coming and wanted me to pay for the room. So that took a little while to work out. I get to my room, hit the bed. I open the door. It's about 2 a.m. I walk in. Smelliest room I've ever been in my life. Smells like the subway in August in New York City. Quite effervescent. So I gave up. I just fell asleep, got back to the airport 4 hours later, made it to my way so you guys could watch all those videos at newh.org. All right, now that you've heard my struggles, Rebecca, you like whiskey?
I think everybody likes whiskey.
How could you not like whiskey? Well, listen, I've got a special deal for you, Rebecca, and every single listener out there right now. If you're going to be in New York City on March 1st, go see Whiskey Live. It's coming to D.C. on March 11th. After that, it's going to be a great event. You've got to go check this out. So here's what it's all about. Organized in conjunction with Whiskey Magazine, over 300 of the world's best whiskeys are going to be there. And because you guys are listening to this show, you're going to get yourself a nice discount off of the typical price. And that discount is going to be 25% off the $139 admission fee. 300 whiskeys to taste. 75 of them have never been at Whiskey Live before. You get live music. You get a full buffet. You get all the whiskey you could drink. You get cocktails from high-profile bars, book signings, chocolate pairings, VR experiences. Hopefully they don't mean virtual reality experiences when it comes to me sipping some of that whiskey. Select pours for VIPs, meet and greets with distillery managers, and more, and a bunch of master classes. Simply use the discount code WLNY25 and get 25% off the price. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Glenn, you've left out how to find this place. I understand. Go to whiskeylive.com. Now, whiskey does not have an E in it, and you guys can buy those tickets or tweet them at Whiskey Live New York. Hope to see you guys there. I hope to make it there myself. So whiskeylive.usa.com, whiskeylive.usa.com. All right, Rebecca, I am hepped up today. You want to know why?
Hopefully you haven't been into the whiskey. It's a little early in the day for that.
Yes, we are too. We are recording this early in the morning. I'm excited because we are going to talk about Disney. Now, a lot of my friends don't even realize how strange it is that I love talking about Disney because I'm also a freak for Las Vegas. But two sides of one coin as far as I am. They're both amazing hospitality experiences, and I love what's happening at Disney World right now. And that's why I have you, my expert on the Disney family travel experience. So I'm going to let you take it from here and let you be in charge if I can handle that for more than 10 seconds. Go.
We're talking about empowerment of women. That's what it's all about, right?
Right. And and as all the listeners out there know, and you know too, women are the ones that are really planning those family vacations out there. They set the tone for pretty much all the purchasing within the house. Us men we just like to pretend that we do, but no, we got no say over it. Y'all are in charge.
That's true. Now, it's interesting to me that you compare the Las Vegas experience with the Disney experience, and I'll tell you what I really think is at the heart of that. Mm-hmm. Both are places that you can go on a budget or go and have absolutely the most luxurious experience and really blow it out of the water. Disney has made a concerted effort to be accessible and available to families of all different economic levels. So they have their entry-level hotels, their value hotels, and the most basic ticket park prices so that people can come and have a great experience and a family experience and still an affordable experience. They also have rolled out an incredible amount of luxury product where they have hotels that really rival any fine resort that you could find anywhere in the world. They also have luxury VIP guides. They have experiences such as safaris that you can do at their nature preserve. And so they have something for everybody and all in between.
That's right.
And that's similar to Vegas, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what Disney is really doing is they are seriously making a grab for that high-end market. There's a lot of rumors right now that the Grand Floridian is going to be totally redone, and they absolutely need to go ahead and do that. Now, to me, you may feel differently, but I'm a spoiled traveler. I find that all of the Disney hotels, whatever star they say it is, you need to subtract 1 star to actually really get what it is. So I think Grand Floridian's nice, but it's certainly not as nice as the relatively newish Four Seasons that they have on their property, for example, and even the Bonnet Creek Waldorf Astoria Hilton complex that they have over there as well.
I was just going to share that exact thing with you. The Four Seasons down there is absolutely incredible. I mean, it is just stunning to look at, and the level of service is flawless. Now, it is an unbelievable addition.
Amazing. And I'm telling you guys, you know me, I'm a suck up, but this is the real deal.
Absolutely, it sure is. And the Waldorf, the whole Bonnet Creek complex, which has the Hilton as well as the Waldorf, is a great place to go when you have kids and you want to get away from the park in the afternoon. They have a terrific pool complex with a lazy river. There's so much to do. great options. But of course, the real stars are staying on property and staying on one of those monorail hotels,
Oh
the
my
Grand
God.
Floridian and the Contemporary. I know that, it's for some of us who are a little bit of hotel snobs, it may seem like we're, taking a step back. But I think you can have an absolutely outstanding experience by having access to the parks like that.
I think what we're talking about are two different things. I'm happy to have a 4-star experience at a 5-star hotel, or at the Polynesian 3.5 to 4, depending on how you look at it, because that experience is so great. When we took my kids there, I have twins now that are about to turn 13, and when they were 4 years old, we took them there for the first time. And it was well worth it to be able to walk out of the room and go right onto that monorail and go straight to that park. But even better, our room looked out at the monorail, and those little boys were just fascinated by that thing driving by every few minutes. To me, that's amazing. Plus, the absolute sense of place is incredible. And who doesn't like Ohana?
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely true. People that stay at the Polynesian when they're little never forget it. It's a really remarkable experience. And the monorail is particularly good with our clients, especially with small children. We do recommend that they take a break in the middle of the day.
Absolutely.
And being on the monorail affords you the opportunity to do that without missing out on too much fun.
Yeah, and that's the problem with staying at a place like the Four Seasons or the Waldorf. We just talked about how amazing they are, but the ability to get back and forth to the parks is a lot more complicated. I would recommend, tell me if I'm wrong, but utilize your own vehicle if you're going to be doing that, because the bus service kind of spotty, and you really have to take a lot of time out of your day in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's a fair suggestion. The other thing I would add for people's consideration is when you stay at one of those hotels, the Four Seasons or the Waldorf, the Bonnet Creek hotels, you don't get the same access to Disney's Fast Pass
Correct.
planning, the same advanced access to their dining. So that's a little bit different. It
really is. And it's interesting to me how Disney is simultaneously allowing properties to come on site, but then at the same time restricting the ability to some of these programs. And you mentioned Fast Pass. That is an absolutely amazing thing that you can do. If you're staying on the property, you could book them 60 days in advance for the rides, but I think 30 days otherwise. Is that correct?
That's correct. And you can book up to 3 in advance. Once you've used your 3 when you're at the park, you can then rebook additional Fast Passes. But there's a whole science to it. It really takes some concentration to get it done right.
It does. Before, it used to just take a lot of cardiovascular power from me, because what we would do is we would grab the tickets that we needed, and I'm like, oh, I can get another one at 11:17. I'd run to the other side of the park and get it, and then meet the family back where they needed to. Oh, I get another one at 2:33. Boom. I would do the same exact thing. So I think I must have walked about 80 miles instead of the typical 12 to 15 that you would normally walk at those parks.
Absolutely.
All right. So, we could talk about all of that. I think that it's a really fascinating thing, the Fast Pass program, which is all linked to these bracelets, which allows you to buy stuff, which allows you to get into your room, which just goes on and on and on. It handles your dinner reservations, all of that stuff in conjunction with the My Disney app. It's really a absolutely fantastic thing. I highly recommend you guys downloading that. And listen, I'm not recommending this, but when I went last year, I may or may not have stayed one night in their hotel and was able to book all of my Fast Passes in advance for the entire week and just stayed the rest of the week somewhere else. So that way my kids got a little bit of the Disney experience, and then I got the benefits of having a friend put me up in a great hotel somewhere for free.
But listen, that is absolutely terrific. And I will let you know that with Smart Flyer, we do provide our clients with custom itinerary planning, including we have a dining reservation service as well as a Fast Pass Plus service.
Well, I would love for you to be able to do that for me, because I found that to be one of the most frustrating things, especially with such high demand at some of these restaurants that are out there right now. I mean, trying to get into the Beauty and the Beast restaurant, why am I forgetting the name of it right now, at Magic Kingdom, is something that everybody wants to go to. Be Our Guest. That's what it's called. Be Our Guest. Right. Another big recommendation I have, if you hate money, is going to the California Grill. Absolutely amazing meal at the top of the Contemporary Resort. The view is even better than the amazing meal, but it's going to set you back a lot of cash.
Sure. And they actually have a Michelin-starred restaurant there as well, Victoria and Albert's. It's just absolutely incredible.
Yes, I've never been there. I'm dying to go there one day, but I don't want to. I always come with the problem of I don't have enough time, and I've always been with the little kids to enjoy that experience. But as one of only 3 Michelin-starred restaurants in the entire state of Florida, I've got to check it out at some point.
It's definitely worth doing. It's remarkable. But you know what? The toughest reservation to get is, believe it or not, is eating with Cinderella. That is one difficult reservation to get. Yes. Cinderella's royal table. And yes. People that go with little girls, that's what they want.
Of
sure.
course they do. We did that too with our little girl, also called Grandma, one year when it was her birthday. Also coincidentally on that trip when my kids were 4 years old, my parents were with us, and boy, oh boy, was that just a really terrific time and fun had by all. So if you don't have the luxury of having someone like Rebecca helping you out, and I highly recommend that you get somebody like her or somebody near your neck of the woods from Smart Flyer to help you out, then you've got to be there 120 days in advance. That's right, 120 days in advance at midnight on your computer, hoping to get that reservation. That's always a struggle.
That's it.
Yep. All right, so what do you think about these rising ticket prices that are going on right now?
So, I mean, that's been the major topic of discussion over the past few days in the Disney travel agent community. I think that they're doing a shift to model their ticket prices sort of more like Universal. That's just my opinion. They're sort of trying to give a lot more levels and a lot more intricacy to how you want to use your ticket. So for people that aren't aware, Disney is doing away with the Water Park Fun and More and Park Hopper bundled ticket.
Did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there's no longer going to be the Water Park Fun and More standalone ticket. I think the reason they're doing that is that they're making some significant improvements to the park, Glenn. They're going to be adding this new Pandora World of Avatar.
That's going to be at Animal Kingdom coming May 27th.
Absolutely. They've got the new Star Wars experience, which is kind of, I'm going to say 35-40% up and running, but it's going to be getting even bigger and better. They've completely revamped Soaring and Frozen at Epcot. They're doing more stuff with Toy Story at Hollywood Studios. So I think that the ticket prices are reflective of the enhancements they're going to be offering to their customers.
Right. Now, my opinion is they're a little too reflective of what the theme park is going to be a couple of years from now and not really what you're getting today. I actually see the rising ticket prices as somewhere between a shameless cash grab and a practical approach to try to get less people to come to the park. Now, when Motley Fool put up an article this past week talking about how attendance dropped 5% at the theme parks, and they were looking at that as a negative. I actually see that as a positive because a lot of these parks, particularly Hollywood Studios, are so jam-packed because they're in the middle of adding so many things that they don't have the capacity to handle all of these people. So rather than have all of these extra people in the park, they keep trying to push up these prices to try to lower demand for the park, but that doesn't seem to be working. It's still, the Magic Kingdom is attracting something like 17, 18 million people a year alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it can really get intense. And, clearly they're doing something right because everybody wants to go. I do want to point out that with the new pricing structure, they are offering a value ticket for non-peak periods. So, now you're going to have a value day that's going to be significantly less money. And I think that's a good thing. I think we do want to make sure if I were in charge of Disney, I would want it to be as inclusive as possible.
Right. Now, I love your attitude, Rebecca. I'm the other. Instead of saying they have value days, I see them trying to do premium pricing for more in-demand days. But really, really exactly the same kind of thing. To me, I think the best time of year to go, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong, because I think the crowds are starting to even out more, but right after Labor Day or right after Thanksgiving before that Christmas holiday kicks in.
100%. When if we have clients with little kids that aren't in school or even kids that are at a young enough age in grade school that they can take off, we recommend that week after Thanksgiving is the quietest week. Level 3 crowds, you can really enjoy yourself. And it really enables you not just to do the attractions, but to experience the park the way that Walt Disney wanted you to, which is to look around and be amazed at the theme and the scenery. It's just an incredible experience.
And that's one of the things that I'm worried that we're losing here with the hyper scheduling nature of not just Disney, but all of society. We're so used to plan. And with the Fast Pass Plus program that they have in place now through your My Disney app, My Disney Experience app, you really have to kind of know where you're going to be sometimes months in advance, which kind of can ruin that spontaneity. So I would love for you guys to plan that trip for that week after Thanksgiving and be able to just sit and enjoy and go at a nice leisurely pace. So much more fun.
Yeah, can I give you? I want to just give you one little thing that we've always found really cool about the parks, and
people
don't really realize this. But when you're in Magic Kingdom, if you look down at the ground, based upon how the floor is underneath your feet, you can figure out what part of the park you're in. So in other words, if you're in Frontierland, it is old cobblestone designed to look like the Wild West flooring. Yep. And if you're in Adventureland, they have it looking like you're walking on the streets of different areas of Africa or different areas of Adventure Island. All of the flooring throughout the parks was done intentionally to make it look like you are in the place that you're supposed to be. So you don't even have to look up and around you. You can just look down. And I think that's what you're saying is we all need to have time to take a breath and look around and realize the attention to detail that went into designing these places.
And there is so much attention to detail, little winks and nods and surprises throughout the entire park. One thing that I think has become more common is understanding the whole concept of the hidden Mickeys, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely. They have them at the Four Seasons in a couple of places if you know where to look.
Well, I guess you don't know where to look, which is why they're called hidden. Otherwise, they'd be out in the open. You know where to look, Mickeys, right? And that's not nearly as much fun. So what are you looking forward to at Disney World and Disneyland coming up in the next few years? Are you looking forward to that Avatar Land, that Millennium Falcon ride for Star Wars Land? Maybe it's even the third track for the Toy Story Mania at the Hollywood Studios.
Well, I think there's a lot to look forward to. First of all, what's coming soon, and you'll be able to see just in the next few months, is the new spectacular fireworks display. They're retiring Wishes, which is, I have to admit, I cry every single time I see it.
That's been there like 13 years, and great show, but I could see why they're getting ready to do a new one.
So the new spectacular will be called Happily Ever After, and it's going to similarly be poignant and uplifting, and I'm really looking forward to that. They're, of course, going to be shining it on Cinderella's castle as they have done in the past. It's going to be 18 minutes and featuring snippets from The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, as well as newer films like Moana and Zootopia. So that's very exciting. And of course, as a child of the 80s, I cannot wait for more Star Wars stuff to come. I mean, I'm eating it up. Every time I'm there, I can't wait to see it. Have you seen any of the new Star Wars stuff, Glenn?
I have not seen the stuff that exists there. I'm dying for a picture of me and Chewbacca or me with Darth Vader or something. But Rebecca, I got to admit to you, I am so super pathetic because I go online all the time and try to find Star Wars Land construction photos from both coasts. And I sit there and I'm like, ooh, that's the foundation for the Millennium Falcon ride. It's really, really quite pathetic.
Oh, no, it's terrific. And the last time we were there, my son did the Jedi Training Academy. And I mean, when Darth Vader actually comes out, the kids' eyes all get so big. It's really, they're doing a great job. It really brings it to life.
Yeah, I really love that. And there's nothing more special than taking those little ones to Disney. But you know what? Now that my kids are older, and as I said earlier, they're about to turn 13, I took them down to Disney World and the Universal Studios Park, which is getting a lot more in popularity. And maybe we'll talk about that next time. They look at everything from a kind of different point of view. So instead of enjoying Disney through their eyes, now I'm enjoying it a lot more with them hand in hand, which is a fabulous experience too.
I think that's true. And they really do have things now that are great for tweens and teens. You know, you've got the Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror. You know, those are real thriller rides. Of course, you've got your classic Thunder Mountain, Space Mountain. I mean, just that first drop is just incredible. And now with the Pandora, the World of Avatar coming to Animal Kingdom, I think that it's going to be something that has even more of that cool factor for older kids.
It sure is. Now, the Pandora World of Avatar at the Animal Kingdom will be opening, like I said, May 27th, and that's going to feature two major attractions. One is being dubbed a little bit jokingly Soaring Over Pandora, because it seems all the rumors are it's going to be a similar kind of technology to the Soarin' ride that they have there, and then an amazing chillin' boat ride through the World of Pandora also that's going to be great and family friendly.
Absolutely. And there's a new nighttime show at Animal Kingdom as well called Rivers of Light, which is really supposed to be quite lovely. I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it. And so they're really making an effort to make Animal Kingdom a little bit more of a showcase park. I think it's been a little bit of a sleeper for a long time with our clients. It's always been a half a day plan. but I think in the future it's going to be kind of overtaking some of the other parks to become a destination itself.
Well, for the next couple of years, it's absolutely going to overtake the Hollywood studios, and the Epcot park that needs some serious tender care. My prediction is by the end of the summer, we're going to hear about a massive reinvention of that park along the lines of the $1 billion plus they put into California Adventure out in Anaheim, and the $1 billion that they're putting into the Hollywood Studios park right now. Do you sense that that's coming too?
I think that it is. I'm actually headed down in 10 days to Disney to get, I'm going to be attending some seminars. And so when I come back, I'll have some more information. But they're going to be talking a lot about the luxury model there and what they're doing for higher end clients. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about Epcot. So I'll have to circle back to you on that with a little inside intel.
Good. I'm curious to hear how the new Rivers of Light show is going, because it's been delayed a year. I heard that it was really just real super sucky, and now they've reinvented it, and it will it will have that Disney magic that we've all come to depend on.
Super sucky. Is that an industry term, Glenn?
Yeah, that's the official term. We got lame, sucky, and then super sucky. So yeah, awesome. All right, believe it or not, I think we're out of time, and we're gonna have to go to a commercial break, and then when we come back, I've got a great interview with Frits van Paasschen. Now you might know the name because he was the president and CEO of Starwood Hotels and Resorts for a number of years, and now he's written a new book all on disruptors. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But before we go, Rebecca, it was so much fun talking to you. I'm ready to book a vacation with you. I'm sure the readers are. How can they get in touch with you?
Glenn, thank you. I would absolutely love to book your next trip. They can reach me, simple email, Rebecca, that's REBECCA at smartflyer, SMARTFLYER.com.
All right. Beautiful. Love it. And again, find me at Traveling Glenn, like the show on iTunes. I don't ask much. All right, I probably ask too much, but just do this for me. Give me a break. Help me out. I look forward to doing a lot more great shows with you, and we will be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. Glenn here. All right, so this is not part of the show, but this is an ad for something I really believe in. It's the California Lodging Investment Conference. And the great thing is it's only one day. That's Thursday, March 9th, 2017. It's going to be held in Orange County. Now, if you're in California as a hotelier or doing business with California hoteliers, this is going to be a great opportunity to get together for an amazing day of learning, professional development, and networking. It's hosted by my good buddy, Craig Sullivan. He's a conference chair, and he's really launching this conference. Why? To make sure that fellow industry leaders support the community and educate emerging talent. That's where you guys come in. Be sure to attend, and you're going to have a great time. You're going to learn and maybe even get some new opportunity. So again, the California Lodging Investment Conference is going to be located at the Hilton Irvine Orange County Airport on March 9th, 2017. That's coming up really fast, so make sure you visit their website, clickconference.com. That's CLICKONFERENCE.com. clickconference.com. All right, so one of the things out there that I am most concerned about is how the whole world seems to be getting disrupted. All the old is going away, and there's lots of new ways of doing things. You know, I've talked about this on the show before, especially when it comes to technology and the dangers that we have, or I should say the opportunities to find more success in it. Now, what we're going to talk about a little today goes a little bit beyond the hospitality industry, but in order to do it, I brought a former hotel industry champion on the blower with me, and that's Frits van Paasschen. And you might know him as the former CEO of Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and he's also worked with Coors and Disney and McKinsey and pretty much anyone that found branding really important. Frits, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the show, Glenn. Thank you for having me on.
Well, let me tell you, it's a pleasure to have you on this show. I really was a fan of what you did during your time at Starwood, and I think it really plays into what this book is all about, which incidentally is called The Disruptor's Feast, How to Avoid Being Devoured in Today's Rapidly Changing Global Economy. Of course, you can find it on Amazon and probably lots of other good places too, right, Frits?
That's right. The best place to get the book is on Amazon. I made the decision to self-publish, and it's available both in Kindle as well as hard copy form.
Excellent. And this book follows in the long line of guests that I like having on that I'm very jealous of, because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Now, when it comes to branding, I thought you were an amazing professional, really getting a lot of the brands at Starwood very focused and have a direct emotional connection with guests. And that's something that I think has been now pushed out without the rest of the hospitality industry. Before we get into the topic of the book itself, I'm curious to know a little bit about what your branding was like when you were working at Starwood to make sure that you did connect with that guest, which is so critical today.
Well, I had the good fortune of coming into Starwood, which had at the time, of course, 9 very strong brands. And so there's no better place to start than with brands that are already in a very good place. My belief when managing brands is that they have to have a point of view, that at the very least they need to have a strong personality. One of the things that I carried from my Nike days was the idea that if you have a brand, it doesn't mean that everybody likes you. What it means is some people love you, and maybe a few people really don't, and that's okay. You have to have a point of view as a brand, and so we wanted to make sure that we were as sharp as we could be in defining what each of the 9 brands stood for.
And that's a really great thing, because if you try to appeal to everybody, I think, Frits, then you wind up appealing to nobody, right?
I think you end up being generic and something that doesn't stand out, so you may not turn anybody off, but you probably don't have a loyal set of followers that will do anything, go the extra 15 minutes to get to your hotel, pay the higher rate, all the things that brand zealots will do if they love your brand.
Right. So what are some of the elements that make sure a brand is something that can be loved, or is it really a case of every brand has to go on its own path and journey?
Well, I think each brand, almost like a human being, has to have a personality and a positioning in the market that makes it both distinctive and compelling. And being able to define that in a short few words that really make it very clear what the brand stands for is one of the key things to do. Then the next piece of work, and this is really where the work is making sure that those aspects of that brand positioning come alive in your visual communications, what your web and online and mobile presence looks like, the design, the ethos, the feel when you come on property, the way associates interpret that personality and the brand for their own delivery of hospitality. All of those things really need to come together. I will tell you, I think what's challenging for the hospitality industry is it's a hugely capital-intensive business. I mean, after all, hotels are the real estate business. And as a result, getting each property lined up with each brand is what makes branding in the hospitality business so challenging.
Yeah, it absolutely is challenging. And I'm finding that as these companies continue to get bigger, and of course, you're very well aware that your former company at Starwood was purchased by Marriott, they now have 32 brands. And how do you continue to create brands that are distinct when there are so many in a family of products? Or is that even possible, Frits?
Well, I haven't looked hard at the brand portfolio of Marriott, but I think that when you have a lot of brands, it's very important that there are people in the organization that are singularly focused on a particular brand and what it stands for. Let's face it, there are far more than 32 brands in the hospitality business across lodging, and therefore there's no reason why one company couldn't have as many brands as they do. But the challenge is making sure that each one has a separate personality that is distinct in some way, that reaches out to a certain guest, and that each property and each associate that works with that property stays true to that positioning.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And I think one of the problems that we're seeing in general is a lack of stewardship over certain brands. And if you don't keep that laser light focus on it, I think in that case, then it starts to lose that connection with the guests. Now, one of the things that are going to make it a lot more difficult is the rapidly changing global economy, as you write about in the Disruptor's Feast, which is about digital technology, global development, urbanization, and business disruption, really changing the way that we operate in there and how brands fit in with those places. So everyone is disrupting. Here in the hospitality industry, we see disruptors in the form of companies like Airbnb, for example, that are really having the lunch of a lot of hoteliers out there. What was the premise for you creating this book, and why do you think it's such an important topic now?
Well, I think as you said so well, what's happening is the rise of power of digital technology is creating all kinds of other things around the world. So whether it's this rapid expansion of development, whether it's a catalyst for urbanization, technology is setting so many things in motion that, look, I'm a guy who spent his career on sneakers, suds, and sleep, right? I'm not a guy who grew up in the technology world, and yet it really reminds me of that line about Keynesians. We're all technologists now.
Right.
Technology is fundamentally changing every aspect of the way we live and the way businesses work. And, I had a unique vantage point as CEO of Starwood to see that with hotels in 100 countries, the capital that was behind those hotels, which was all over the world, the 250,000 people that slept in our hotels every night. So I had this wonderful vantage point to see how the world was changing and how that acceleration was creating new challenges, especially for large organizations that had been very successful for a long time. But it struck me that in a changing world, the new definition of insanity almost has to be doing the same thing and expecting the same result. Doing the same thing today may, in fact, give you a very different result tomorrow than it did yesterday.
So we've all got to be on our game and understand that disruption can come in most unlikely of places if we're not paying attention to it. So how do we, I want to know about some brands that you think are being disruptors and how they're changing the industry, but I'm also curious as to how you could guard yourself against being cast as irrelevant at some point. So tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you talk about in the book and how disrupting the status quo is really starting to drive change.
Yeah, well, let me start back. First of all, I think if you look at the travel business and you look at the experiences that people have on the road, in spite of the hard work of the millions of people that work in this industry and in spite of the technology, travel is still not a very pleasant experience, right? And one of the words I've used to describe it are anonymous, uncertain, and inconvenient, right? You are not an individual. You are seat 13C. You don't know exactly what activities you want to do when you go somewhere new because while there are millions of reviews, you don't know who's exactly like you. And there are lines and all kinds of inconveniences along the way. So there's a lot of room here for innovation that will change and improve the travel experience. And, the real first wave of digital disruption that now is really a huge part of the travel landscape, of course, is the rise of the OTAs.
Right.
And, they are extraordinarily powerful. And like any network-based businesses, they are largely natural monopolies. That's why there's this constant consolidation there. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the rise of Airbnb as an alternative way of delivering hospitality. But I think the real next phase here will be who actually creates a better way for you to plan and go through the process of traveling that makes it less inconvenient, less uncertain, and where you feel like you're actually a human being that every step of the way. And, whether that's going to be Google, whether that's the travel services that Airbnb is starting to offer, whether it's the OTAs becoming more interactive, or whether it's any of thousands of startup companies, or for that matter, the hotel companies, it's still up in the air. I think that's still up for grabs.
So we don't really know what's going to happen. So I guess we have to gird ourselves as much as possible against those disruptors that could come into the market at any minute and reinvent the industry with something completely obvious that we somehow were blind to.
Yeah, and I think that the best business ideas are oftentimes a combination of not screamingly new technology, but the combination of a few good ideas and strong technologies which together create a new concept. And I think that will be a large basis for how this plays out. Are there companies either in or outside the hospitality business that you think are following this particular model that you just laid out? There's none that I think I'd like to point out in specific. I think that, the real interesting challenge will be, what does Google want to do in this space? What do companies like Apple and Microsoft want to do with all the information they have about different people and where they are? And it's the classic word I think that has come out of this that we're all familiar with now is frenemies, right? Are we competing with Google? Are they our partner? I mean, I think it's a really difficult question sometimes to answer. And and yet it's extremely important from a strategic perspective.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're finding is that they are your friends until suddenly they're not anymore, right?
Yeah, well, I think that, it's in life, in any situation, what you get depends a lot on the strength of your negotiating position. And so, for any company to maintain, the loyalty of their consumer base, to maintain some kind of proprietary access to what people want and to create a network around that, that creates the kind of barrier that you can use to adjust and change as the landscape shifts with new technology and disruption coming along.
So how do you know if a new technology has the potential to disrupt the business you're in, or it's just another fad that may come and go?
Well, I think that too often we make the mistake of dismissing disruptors, and some of that I think is a function of cognitive bias, which is one of the things that I talk about in the book. And another is this idea that most disruption starts kind of innocent. It doesn't necessarily look very menacing. It might start down market. They may make a lot of mistakes, but when they get their act together, suddenly they grow very quickly, and usually at that point, it's too late. I mean, I think that, again, the interesting thing to do is to look at the strength of the OTAs as they've come into existence, and let's face it, much less than 2 decades, to be a major force in the industry. Had the hotel companies in 2000 say, no, all online bookings are going to come through my own channels, would they have been in a better position today to forestall the great strength of the OTAs? I think that's an example of how life could have played out differently if the hotel companies were awake to the challenge and the opportunity in the first internet bubble around the year 2000.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember that time period and how after 9/11, the hotel industry fell into a deep morass. So they gravitated towards the OTAs, thinking that this would be a short-term solution. Well, now we know better that it transformed the entire way that people connect and book hotels and really created a sense of commonality between all hotels for a lot of customers, where it became a commoditized product as opposed to an individualized, exciting experience. And I think the hotel brands are starting to learn that that's what they have to deliver now in order to stand out with customers.
Right, and I think you put your finger on the critical issue here, because as the hotel companies see that the signaling power of brands has gotten weaker through online reviews and all the transparency that there is, as hotel owners have said, hey, I actually want to manage this hotel because I want to have flexibility, in many respects, hotel companies and OTAs are in direct competition as pipelines of guests to hotels.
Yeah.
The OTAs have these extraordinary networks. I mean, if you look at Booking.com, they have 1 million different properties online, compared to 1 million rooms with Marriott. So they're much larger. But what the hotel companies can, and in my opinion should do, is make sure that the on-property experience is connected to how people have gotten to that hotel and create loyalty to a system. That was why when I was at Starwood, I was so focused on SPG, because ultimately that was the brand that was the underlying strength for each of the individual hotel brands that we had above it.
And I will tell you, no matter where I go, when people are discussing loyalty programs, if they're an SPG member, they are much, much, much more loyal than any other program I've seen in the business. So I want to congratulate you on creating something that really resonates with that core customer that you were looking for.
Well, thank you. And by the way, back to the logic.
Yeah.
The ability to have that loyalty was what gave us the opportunity to have conversations with hotel owners about why they should sign with us and not somebody else. And so the hard work that so many people put in to build that loyalty around SPG was an extraordinarily important asset to the company.
Yeah, and I think a lot of other loyalty programs are trying to chase what you achieved years and years ago. Now, there's one company out there that is a great disruptor that I think really, visualizes everything that we're talking about here today, and that happens to be Uber, something I absolutely love. When I went out to the America's Lodging Investment Summit in January, just a few short weeks ago, what struck me most is me and all of the hotel industry people standing at the Uber pickup stand and nobody over at the cab stand. So, that's something that really connects best with us, and I think should serve as a warning to the hotel industry that if we're going to enjoy Disruptor so much, maybe the hotel industry is ripe for disruption as well.
Well, and to your exact point, I mean, think about it. When you got into a cab, you were anonymous. You had no idea what the cab driver was going to be like. It was not convenient in the sense that you had to stand and wait, and you had no way of knowing how long a cab would take or whether you'd get a good driver. Uber solved those basic problems, and to your exact point, that's all it took for a major shift in the way people think about getting themselves around in cities away from home. And, even to the point where, and I mentioned this in the book, that if you look at San Francisco, one of the things the Uber guys told me was their business in San Francisco is 3 times as big as what the taxi business was when they got started. So they've created primary demand. They've touched, and frankly, they're disrupting car rentals as much as they are the taxi business, and for that matter, car ownership. So, that's the interesting thing about disruption is it doesn't necessarily stay in its lane. It starts to spread into other businesses and create a different way for people to think about getting the services that they want.
Right, and completely anecdotal, I'm going to bet that DUIs have gone down and accidents have gone down that were related to alcohol as well. Because I know my friends in Las Vegas, for example, that live on the outskirts of town, constantly take Ubers now where they used to drive and take chances before.
Are you saying they were drinking before?
I'm just saying that sometimes when, you're on the line, you're going to probably go for the drive instead of,
well, I think
but now they don't even consider it because they take an Uber both ways.
But all kidding aside, right? I think Uber also makes the taxi experience feel safer because you do have a sense that there's another individual there and that someone is watching.
Yeah. And tell you what, they're all really nice and I get along with them. And here's the magic word that we all say, it creates an experience, right? It's a real immersion that's different than the cab thing where I don't really feel part of it. I almost feel like I'm invading the cabbie's privacy and listening into his personal telephone conversations in Hindu or Pakistani, it seems like all the time.
Well, and Glenn, I think you raise another important point here because literally the staffing ratio has changed, stayed exactly the same, right? You have one driver and you have however many people in the car as before.
Right.
And ultimately your sense of that experience and of hospitality comes down to human beings. And so technology has done something to make hospitality better, but it hasn't taken people and the human aspect of hospitality out of the equation.
Right. So how do we prepare ourselves for this bright and exciting but potentially disruptive future?
Well, I think businesses, of course, have to start to think about how they develop peripheral vision, right? How do you, as a business leader, understand what's happening in not just technology, but also in different parts of the world? And what's happening across generations. And, one of the things I talk about and I feel very passionate about is this idea of living at the crossroads.
Right.
And understanding and bringing people together from different cultures, from different functional areas with different disciplines, people from the field, people from technology, people from marketing and design, but also across generations and bringing a cross-rough of the long experience that people have that is valuable in making any kind of decision and the judgment that goes along with that, with this sort of intuitive native understanding of a different world. And the confluence of those different points of view, I think, is the best insurance that people can have in understanding where their business needs to go. And then the other piece, of course, is focusing on a strategy that builds barriers to entry that are flexible and that can respond to what's happening in the rest of the world.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. And you said something earlier that you just touched on. We kind of glossed over it. You used the phrase confirmation bias, the idea of seeing things through your prism without necessarily accurately evaluating the situation. Any tips on how we could avoid confirmation bias that would prevent us from making smarter decisions in business?
Well, I think, first of all, part of it comes with the understanding that bias is inherently human, and that it's not a function of how smart you are. And when people like the head of the Federal Reserve think that the financial crisis will be contained to the subprime housing industry, I mean, here's a guy who was extraordinarily smart and is as well informed as anybody could be. So the real question here isn't intelligence; it's making sure that you have the discipline and the mindset to continue to update your view of the world and to understand how different trend lines are changing the landscape. And I do think that that's an effort that requires getting out. It's one of the reasons why, for example, I moved Starwood's headquarters to Shanghai for 6 weeks in 2011, and 2 years later did the same thing to Dubai, because getting that dialogue, hearing from people about what's happening, what people are asking for, what kind of developments there are in the marketplace, it's really, I think, a function of having the discipline to continue to be able to listen and not listening to the same people who are saying the same thing.
Right, and that makes me think of the hotel general manager who needs to get out from behind the desk, get out of that office, and talk to your customers and see what they're thinking, see what they want when it comes to the future of the hotel experience. And I think that will help you get past some of that bias as well.
Glenn, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because frankly, the lesson I learned at Starwood was, the very good hotel managers were out and around the property constantly. When I walked the property with them, they knew people's names, they knew what was going on in different parts of the hotel. And what I said to them was, my being with you is exactly the same thing as what you're doing. I just need to do this on a global basis and get to as many people and properties as I practically can in the context of my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely right. Now, before we wrap up here, Frits, I do want to say you've got some great people who are totally into this book. You got quotes from Jim Cramer, who's the host of Mad Money and Squawk on the Street with CNBC. Everybody knows him. He's the guy that's shouting all of the things that you should be doing. But I'm also impressed with Arianna Huffington is all about this book as well. Now, the reason why I mention her is because I think the Huffington Post did a great job at disrupting the way that we think about news today and how it's delivered as well.
Absolutely, and I think that the insights and the development that HuffPost had in bringing news to people, sourcing from other places, is a great example of how the established world of newspapers was completely disrupted in a digital world. I mean, it used to be that Warren Buffett loved to buy newspapers because he saw them as small natural monopolies in different cities. That has been completely changed. And I was so excited when Arianna agreed to write an endorsement of my book, because I thought what she had done in the journalism business, in the newspaper business, was exactly the kind of thing that's happening industry after industry around the world. So I was thrilled that she was willing to do that.
That's awesome. And again, we're talking about the Disruptor's Feast, how to avoid being devoured in today's rapidly changing global economy. Before I give you one more shameless plug, Frits, any final words?
Well, first of all, I guess I want to say I think that the hospitality business continues to be an extraordinarily exciting place to be. And I know so many people work in different aspects of the hospitality business. There will be a lot of change, but hospitality will always be about human beings serving and helping other human beings.
Great. And thank you for saying that, because you make me look like a smart guy, because I say that all the time. So myself and my ego, thank you for that one. Remember, guys, it's all about connecting as people. And I think that is a follow through, a through line for this whole conversation is no matter what technology is out there, meaningful personal interactions are what are going to connect with us best and make us want to use whatever product or service again and again. So make sure you get Frits van Paasschen's book. That's Frits, F-R-I-T-S, Van Paasschen, V-A-N-P-A-A-S-S-C-H-E-N. I got to tell you, it took me a little while to figure out how to spell your name. I had to correct it a lot when I was writing for the former magazine. And you guys can get that on Amazon.com. Any other things that you would like to add?
That's great. No, thank you so much. I'd love to hear people's reactions to the book.
I would too. And guys, send us your note. You can find me, Glenn, at rouse.media, or on Twitter and Instagram at Traveling Glenn. And Frits, can they reach out directly to you through social media?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and FritzVanPaasschen.com as well.
Excellent. So guys, Buy the book. It's really, really interesting stuff. And you know what? I really hope to figure it all out. And I want to thank you all for listening. And I will be back next week. That is, unless I find I've gotten disrupted and there's a whole new way of doing podcasts. See you guys next week, and thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.